Oh yeah, sorry guys, I became a little late. Like there was a problem in opening the link. I'm really sorry. So we'll start right away, right? So hope everybody is there. Okay, fine, cool. So just let me share my screen. Okay, so guys, we have been seeing thermodynamics, isn't it? Right. So we'll start right away. So I think last class we completed the first part, that is the first law of thermodynamics, isothermal reversible expansion, adiabatic reversible expansion, first law of thermodynamics. All these things have been completed. So we'll quickly go do some problems and then we'll move on, right? And guys, and I think I'll be taking some extra hard minutes today. Is it okay? Like I'll be taking at least like 10 to 15 extra minutes. 8:45 will complete. Is that okay for you? Or do we have any other class today? Is it? How is it? Is it okay if I take 10 to 15 minutes extra? Hello? Guys, are you there? Hello? Why are you guys speaking? Yeah, four of you I'm seeing. Aditi, Akshay, Harish, Srivatsan. Are you there? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, okay. Fine. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Yeah. So we'll just do a couple of problems and we'll move on. Right. Okay. So this is given to you. So what they have given is I have okay. So this diagram is given to you, right? So it is this is the initial state, this is the final state, and they are given they're talking about carbon dioxide, right? And everything else is given, right? And they want you to find what is this final volume. I want to find what is this V, right? Okay, can you do it? What is this question about? What kind of process is this? What is the type of process here?
Sir, isobar.
Now look at it carefully and tell me what is it. See, this is the hint. What type of process it is? When I have Q is equal to 0. When I have Q is equal to 0, what kind of process? Like, I think you really have to wake up. Like I woke up and I'm little bit became late because of that. right? If you didn't wake up, please go wash your face and come. I'll wait for you, right? So tell me, what is this? Q is equal to 0. What kind of process? What do you mean by Q is equal to 0? What do you mean by Q is equal to 0? Quick. So are you going to maintain your silence like this? Okay. One chat. What is it? Isothermal. Isothermal. Okay. It's not isothermal. Isothermal have temperature to be 0. So you see that here, I can show you, it's not isothermal. You can see temperature is changing, right? 350 Kelvin, and here it's 150 Kelvin, right? So basically they're telling that this transformation is happening. That is this state, this to this state, the transformation is happening, right? So adiabatic, yes, absolutely true, right? So when do you have Q is equal to 0? Q is equal to 0 will happen when I have an adiabatic process, right? So this is an adiabatic process. Okay, whatever is given in this question, Q is equal to 0 reminds you that it is going to be a adiabatic process, right? Okay, now I have to find this V, right? Now tell me, so we are talking about an isothermal reversible expansion. So they didn't give you anything else, right? So they didn't give you that that's going to be a reversible, irreversible process. But we have only one equation with us for adiabatic process, and that is from a adiabatic reversible expansion of an ideal gas. That's what we have, right? So tell me, how do I go about it? How do I find my V, right? So if you can remember, there were relationships connecting temperature volume, pressure temperature, right? So with respect to adiabatic processes, right? So can you tell me, can anyone someone unmute and tell me what is that equation connecting temperature and volume? Because that is what is asked here. Temperature 300, like 300 and 500 Kelvin, right? And they have asked me, they have given me the volumes also, right? So how will you go about it?
Sir, V1 by T1 is equal to V2 by T2.
That will happen if I have normal process, right? That is my Charles law, or I think Charles law, right? So that will connect my temperature and volume. That is not we have to use here. So there is one more equation specially we derived for not derived. I told you that we can derive also. So I told you that there'll be a special equation when it comes to adiabatic process connecting all the three, not all the three, two at a time: temperature, volume, pressure, temperature. Right? So what is that? Everybody forgot in a matter of, I don't know, 5 days, 6 days. What is the equation? Nobody remembers. So if I'll just make you remember, it is this: T V power gamma is constant, right? So this is a thing which we derived, not derived. Yeah, you can derive it also, right? So T V power gamma is constant, right? Or I can also write it as T1 V1 power gamma is equal to T2 V2 power gamma, right? So what is this gamma value? What is gamma? Guys, if you have taken notes,
Kp by Kc.
Kp by Kc.
I mean, sorry, Cp by Cv.
Correct. So it's Cp by
Sorry,
Cv,
sir.
right? Correct. So it is Cp by Cv, right? Or it is also going to be R by Cv plus 1, right? It is also going to be R by Cv minus 1, I guess, right?
Yes, sir.
R by Cv minus 1, right? Okay, that's it. So if I know the gamma, if I can find the gamma, this problem is solved. Is it not? Because V1 is given, T1 is given, T2 is given. I just have to find V2. right? So I just have to put it in the equation and find out, right? So now the only thing which I have to know is the CV. R value I know, like it is a universal gas constant. What is the CV value for this gas? CO2. So I told you, right? When I have a monoatomic gas, this much will be there. When I have a diatomic gas, this much. When I have a polyatomic gas, this much. So this belongs to obviously polyatomic gas because you have more than 2 atoms present, right? So what will be the CV value of this gas? Three R. Okay, we'll calculate, right? So now I told you for translatory motion it is 0.5 R. See, this is translate, not even write TR, 0.5 R. For rotational motion, it is, sorry, this is 3 by 2 R. This is 1.5 R, not 0.5, right? For rotational motion, it is 0.5 R. And for vibrational motion, it is R. Okay, so now this is a polyatomic gas which is going to have all the 3 types of motion, that is translational, rotational, and vibrational. So 1.5 plus 0.5, that is just 2 plus 3 is 3. So obviously your answer is correct. So CV of this gas, carbon dioxide, is 3R. Done. So CV is done, right? Now what do you have to do? It's have to substitute in the equation, get the answer. Can you do it and tell me the answer? Quick, substitute all these values in this equation. And remember to use R value as 8.314. Don't forget. Because we're dealing in terms of joules. But I think it'll get cancelled, is it not? R and CV. See, if you look at this gamma, if I just substitute R by 3R, right? R and 3R, minus 1 is there. R and R gets cancelled. So it'll be 1 by 3 minus 1. 1 by 3 is 0.33. And minus 1 will become 0.67. Right? This is my gamma value. Right? This gamma value is 0.67. Right? So substitute everything. Right? And you'll be able to get the answer for V2. Right, guys, everybody understood? Please give me a yes. I want everyone to give me a yes in the form of in the chat or in the form of, say, unmute yourself and tell me yes, or no. Okay, 1,
Yes, sir.
2, 3. Okay, 3, 4. Okay, I think last guy said yes. Cool. Yeah. So it's pretty simple. You just have to remember the equations, right? This is an adiabatic process. Q is equal to 0 is given, right? So now TV power gamma. I have to substitute gamma value, it's R by CV minus 1. And then you have to find the CV value depending on what type of gas is given to you. That is it. Very simple, right? Fine. Now we'll go to another question. Okay. I think this is a similar kind of question. So we'll not go through this. Okay, so take on this question, people. I'm gonna dictate the question. A piston filled with 0.04 moles of an ideal gas A piston filled with 0.04 moles of an ideal gas expands reversibly from 50 ml to 375 ml, 50 ml to 375 ml at a constant temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. At a constant temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Find the work done for this process. I repeat the question, right? A piston filled with 0.04 moles of an ideal gas expands reversibly from 50 ml to 375 ml at a constant temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Find the work done, right? Okay, easy, right? So now again, tell me what kind of process it is. Looking at the question, I think now you'll be able to predict what type of process it is. I think it's pretty easy to understand in the question because I've mentioned it. Yes, isothermal, right? So because I mentioned it as constant temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, right? So now they've given it's a reversible process. They have given it is isothermal process, right? And it's expansion also. So which equation I have to use? I think we derived an equation for isothermal reversible expansion of an ideal gas, just like how we have for adiabatic. But here, it is not going to be equations connecting T, V, and P, but it will be directly an equation for W, right? What happened? Sorry. We had one equation for W. What was that? W is equal to. Guys, why are you so this thing today? So silent today? If you're gonna take some time like this, it is gonna take time for me also. Yeah, isothermal NRT log. Yes, absolutely true. Right, that's the equation. Right, NRT log of VF by VI, V2 by V1. Okay, so I know you have to include 2.303. So the answer would be minus 2.303 NRT log of V2 by V1. This is exactly for isothermal reversible expansion, right? This equation we have to use, right? 2.303 nRT log of V2 by V1. Now number of moles is given, is it not? 0.04. R value I will know, that will be 8.314 because I want the answer in terms of joules. Temperature is given, it should be Kelvin, right? So 273 degrees Celsius plus 37 will become 310 Kelvin. Volume 2 is given, final volume, initial volume is given. You just substitute and get the answer. Very, very simple, right? Okay, so we're not going to go into the calculations. I'm just telling you this is the equation you have to use and all the values are given to you, right? Pretty simple, very, very simple question, right? Okay, right. So that is about the problem. I think one problem, just a problem. Only one problem will do. 1 second. I just wanted to. Okay. Take on the question. 1 mole of helium. 1 mole of helium 1 mole of helium absorbs some heat, absorbs some heat, and its temperature increases, and its temperature increases by 5 degrees Celsius. One mole of helium absorbs some heat, right? And its temperature increased by 5 degrees Celsius. During this process, during this process, the system does 100 joules of work. During this process, the system does 100 joules of work. Right, now the question is find Q. Find Q. Right, I'll repeat the question. 1 mole of helium, right, absorbs some heat, right, and its temperature is increased by 5 degrees Celsius. And in this process, it is doing some work also, right? The system does work, and the amount of work done is 100 joules. Now they're asking, what is the Q value? What is the heat gained? That's what they're asking. Right now, I think this should be a straightforward question, I guess. Right? So what's the equation I have to use? If I have to find Q, and they have given me W and change in temperature, how do I go about it? Today is so silent. Why is it like this? Okay, fine. So hope you remember I have this. Just have to use my first law. That's it. So delta E Q plus W, right? Fine. W is directly given to us. So what is the value which I have to substitute? You tell me. What is the value of W I should substitute here? What is the value of W I should substitute? Guys, if you're not going to open your mouth, okay, 100, just 100. Any signs? Plus, minus? Minus, right? So because they have given the work is done by the gas, by the system, right? So this W is basically going to be minus 100 joules, right? Because the work is done by the system. And we even saw sign conventions, hope you remember, right? Fine. Now I just have to find Q, and they have given me, they're not given delta E, right? But they have given about the gas, and they have given the change in temperature. Now, what is the formula which I have to use for delta E? Guys, I want everybody to participate, right? If you're going to do this, it will be boring for you, it will be boring for me, right? Yeah, Aditi, yes, it's minus 100. So yeah, so what is the equation for delta E which I have to use? Nobody remembers. Guys, how is it possible? In 5 days, you'll forget everything. And this is not the first class of thermodynamics. I think this is the third class. And still you don't remember simple formulas, or that you don't want to answer either of that. Right? Okay, fine. So this delta E, the formula is NCV delta T. Right? This is a famous formula. We derived, we did a problem on that. I guess this exclusively this formula. That's it. You just substitute the values. Number of moles is 1. CV, now they have given it as helium. Right? They have given it as helium gas. So I know it's a monatomic gas. So CV value here for this is going to be 1.5 R, because it will have only translatory motion. Right? It is going to be 1.5 R for this. Number of moles is 1. Delta T is given as 5. That's it. You just substitute everything, and like R value should be in terms of 8.314, because they want the answer in terms of joules. So R value is 8.314. Right? So substitute the values, get E, delta E, W is given, then you can find the Q. That's it. Simple process. Right? Okay, right. So problem solving, you were so quiet. Let me at least start the lesson. At least then you might be little cheered up, right? So yeah, that's about the first part, guys. Right. So we'll move on to the second part. The second part talks about the enthalpies. Now we are moving into thermochemistry. Right. So thermochemistry, obviously, we're going to deal with a lot of chemical reactions and their thermodynamic change, what is happening, all those things you're going to see now. Is it okay? Right. Fine. So we are going to take one thermodynamic property, right? We're going to take one of the thermodynamic terms, right? And that is what is being used all through this particular entire second part, right? And that is what is called as delta H. Right? So delta H, we know what is this. This is what is called as your enthalpy, change in enthalpy, right? So we'll just give a very quick introduction to what exactly enthalpy is, right? Fine. So let me take an isobaric process, right? So I'm taking an isobaric process. I know what kind of process isobaric is. It's a constant pressure process, right? Bar is pressure, right? So isobaric is constant pressure process, right? So if I write the first law, that would be delta E will be equal to Q plus W, right? So okay, so now we are using constant pressure. So let me write the Q as QP. Okay, this QP represents heat lost or heat gained at constant pressure, right? So delta E is equal to Q plus W. I'm just rewriting this Q as QP. The QP is heat lost or heat gained in constant pressure, because we're talking about an isobaric process, right? Okay, now going back to the equation which we already know for Q, that would be NCV del T plus NCP del T, right? This was the equation, right? So now we're talking about constant pressure. So this term has no role to play, and CV del T has no role to play, because that CV is heat capacity at constant volume, right? So but this equation has a role to play, because I have CP there, that is constant pressure, right? Heat capacity at constant pressure, right? So now if I write QP will be directly equal to NCP del T. Okay, now I'm going to give a new term to this QP, and this new term is nothing but delta H, right? So if someone asks you, how do you define delta H? How do you define enthalpy? Just tell them that it is the heat gained or heat lost at constant pressure. Very, very simple. Okay, heat gained or heat lost at constant pressure. Very, very simple, right? So I'll be able to rewrite this equation now. right? Delta E is equal to QP plus W. In the place of QP, I can put delta H, right? So now what will I get? I'll get delta E is equal to delta H plus W. This is what I'll get. And this is a universal equation. I don't have to use it just for your, what is that, isobaric process, right? So we just define the heat loss and heat gain at constant pressure to be equal to delta H. That's it, right? So now again, you'll be able to get an equation for this, right? Delta H, what is the equation? And now just like how you have for delta E to be equal to NCV del T, for delta H, it's equal to NCP del T. Very, very simple. Okay. Del E is NCV del T. Del H is NCP del T. Very easy. This you remember. Okay. Now actually I'll be able to do more on this, right? Let me substitute the formula for W also, right? So W, if I rewrite this, I write it here. Del E is equal to del H minus P external del V. I just wrote the formula for W minus P external del V, right? Now instead of P external del V, let me use something else, right? Let me go to the ideal gas equation, right? So you have PV is equal to nRT, right? So now if I write P del V, right? So if I write P del V, now that equation will become like this. I can write it as delta NG RT. Okay. So this P del V is equal to delta NG RT. Okay. Now what is this Z? G represents gases. Okay. G represents gases and R is universal gas constant. T is the absolute temperature. That is okay. Right. So this G represents gases and delta NG talks about, okay, let me tell you what is this delta NG. Delta NG is equal to total stoichiometric coefficient. Oh God, wait guys. Right. So this delta NG talks about total stoichiometric coefficient of products minus that of reactants. Very, very simple. Okay. So this delta NG, delta N basically is change in number of moles. Change in number of moles between the reactants and products is what you're talking about, because we're talking about chemical reactions here, right? So this delta N actually talks about what is the change in number of moles between the reactants and products, right? So that obviously is going to be coming from the fully the balanced equation, right? So you know what are stoichiometric coefficients? The number which comes before each and every substrate, each and every reactant product in the equation is what is called a stoichiometric coefficient, right? So if you take the total stoichiometric coefficient of products and subtract it with the total stoichiometric coefficient of reactants, and very, very this thing I should use only gaseous products, and here also only gaseous reactants. Other things are not taken into account. Okay, other things are not taken into account because we're using ideal gas equation. You cannot use this for liquids and solids or aqueous solutions, no, right? You should use only this for gases. Okay, now let me come back to this. Let me give you an equation, so that example maybe, so that you'll be able to get the grasp of it. Okay, say if I tell this, I have N2, right? Wait, guys. Right. So yeah, so I have N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3, and I know all these are gases, isn't it? Right. So now I have to, for example, if I have to find delta Ng for this reaction, right? So what did I tell you? Total stoichiometric coefficient of products. First is products. Now there's only one product and the stoichiometric coefficient is 2, right? So 2 minus, right? Total stoichiometric coefficient of reactants. Now I have 1 for N2 and 3 for H2. 3 plus 1 will become 4. So that will be equal to minus 2. So this is how you find delta Ng for a reaction. Now, in this case, it's pretty easy because all the reactants and products are gases, right? But if you don't find something like this, if you find some of them to be excuse me, solids or liquids, right? You don't have to take them in the 1 second, guys. I'll just drink some water. So yeah, what I was telling, delta Ng, right? So for this equation is pretty easy, right? But if you have equations where you have solids and liquids, you should not include them in the equation. So let me take one more example. Say if I have, say something like this, CaCO3 on heating gives CaO plus CO2. Okay, this equation I have, right? So I know CaCO3 is a solid, I know CaO is a solid, and I know carbon dioxide is a gas, right? So for this reaction, if I have to find delta Ng, what will be your answer? You tell me. If I have to find delta Ng for this reaction, what is the answer? What is delta Ng?
1, sir.
Yeah, 1. Absolutely true, right? Because I have again total stoichiometric coefficient of gaseous reactants. Gaseous reactant is, gaseous product. So gaseous product is this, and this is not a gas. So I should not include them in the equation. So I have delta Ng to be 1 CO2 minus. Now, if I go to the reactant side, there are no gases. So that's it. There are no gaseous reactants, so 0. So 1 minus 0 will be 1. So this is how you find your delta Ng. Be very careful. You should use this only for gases. If you find some other phases, you don't have to include them in the delta. If you find no gases, delta Ng is 0. Don't worry about it. Okay. If you don't find any gas, delta Ng is 0. Okay. Right. Now, what is the reason? Right. What is the reason? Because I already told you, because we're using ideal gas equation. Right. So that's the reason why we have to use only this only for gases, not for any other phases. Right. Okay. Now we have found out everything. Now we can rewrite the equation which we found out. So if you can remember, it was delta E is equal to del H minus P external del V. Right. So now this equation, for this only we got a new equation now. So if I write it properly, it will be delta E is equal to del H minus delta Ng RT. And this equation you have to remember. Okay, delta E is equal to delta H plus or minus delta Ng RT. Or you can even write it as delta H is equal to delta E plus delta Ng RT. However you want to write it. Okay, there can be questions like this. Find the difference between the internal energy and enthalpy for a particular reaction. They might give you like that. Okay, they have to find basically del H minus, del E minus del H. They will ask you to find. They'll just give you a reaction like this or like this, right? And they'll ask you to find what is the difference between these two. And not how will you find it? It's pretty simple. It's just equal to delta Ng RT. And obviously, you have to know what is the temperature for that. They'll give you the temperature also. Okay, right? So this is the first thing you have to know, guys, right? So the difference between delta E and delta H, right? And you will be able to appreciate this equation a little bit more if you really see that if I have gases, right? If I have gases, the difference between delta E and delta H is quite significant, right? Because you have an actual value. But if you have a liquid or a solid, right, the difference between delta E and delta H is not so significant. It's not exactly 0. We cannot say it's 0, but still, ideally speaking, yes, it should be 0. Okay, so there will be a considerable difference between delta E and delta H only for gaseous substances, right? Solids and gases, sorry, solids and liquids will not have much difference between their values. Both values will be same almost. Okay, right? Fine. So this is all about your enthalpy. So now we'll move on to different types of process. Different types of chemical reactions and their enthalpies associated with them. Okay, so Fine. So guys, if I ask you, I just have a random equation like this: A plus B giving C plus T, something like this, some random equation I have, right? And I ask you to find what is the enthalpy change for this, right? What is the enthalpy change for this, right? Now you cannot directly find it out, right? You have some special enthalpies, right? Some that I'm going to teach you now. With the help of that, you will be able to find any chemical reaction given to you, right? Any complex chemical reaction given to you. With the help of whatever I'm going to tell you now, you will be able to find what is the enthalpy of the particular process, right? Now why are we even using enthalpies? Now that's the question, right? So enthalpy, why are you using? Because this is how I can go for the energy considerations. There is no other way which you can go about it, right? So you tell that some reactions are exothermic, some reactions are endothermic. Now you obviously, exothermic means heat is released, right? So sometimes this heat released is used for something else. Like you learn in electrochemistry that if I take a spontaneous process, that is if I take uh, exothermic process, right? The chemical energy derived from the exothermic process is converted into electrical energy. That's what happens in a galvanic cell, right? So all these values are pretty important, right? Now before we move on to see what are these special enthalpies, which is going to help us find out the overall enthalpy of any given chemical reaction, right? Now what you have to know is what are all the operations I can do with delta H, right? Now please understand, people, right? Say if I have a reaction like, right, if I have a reaction like A giving B is a reaction to me, right? And say I have a value of, why is it happening like this, right? Right, I have a reaction like A giving B, and for this, say they are given the enthalpy value to be some delta H1, okay, some value, some X, okay, right? Now if I reverse this equation, if I write B giving A, right, now you have to reverse the enthalpy value also. So enthalpy for this reaction will be minus X. Please be very careful, right? So whenever for the forward reaction, if it is X, so if you reverse the reaction, it is going to become minus X. Very simple, right? Now next thing, say this is the reaction, I have A giving B, right? And for this reaction I have, say, enthalpy is given, that is X, okay? So now what I do is I rewrite the equation as 2A giving 2B, or okay, whatever it is, I just multiply throughout the reaction by 2. Okay, now this has to be reflected in your enthalpy also. So what will happen? Now the enthalpy for this reaction will be equal to 2x, because you have multiplied the whole reaction by 2. The enthalpy value also should be multiplied by 2. Okay, now this is the second operation. First operation is reversal. You reverse the sign of the delta H, right? And if you multiply throughout the reaction by a factor of n, right? The enthalpy value also should be multiplied by a factor of n. Like if it's X, if you multiply it by 2, it will become 2x. Okay. Now the last operation which you can do with respect to enthalpy is when you add or subtract two or more equations. Say for example, if I have A giving B is one equation, say delta H1 for this, say B giving C is, for this reaction, say it is delta H2, and say C giving D is delta H3. Now, if I have to find what is the overall enthalpy change in A giving D, now A is there, D is here, right? Okay, now what is the enthalpy change for the overall reaction? It's pretty simple. Now from the equations you can understand, if I add these three, A giving B, B giving C, and C giving D, if I add, B will get cancelled, C will get cancelled. So only thing which will be remaining is A giving D, right? So you added the three reactions. So if I want to know what is the enthalpy of this reaction, now you add all these reactions, so the enthalpy in the corresponding enthalpies all should be added. So it will be 1 plus 2. That means delta H1 plus delta H2 plus delta H3. That is the third operation. Okay. So one thing is reversal. Second thing is multiplying the reaction throughout by a factor of n. And the third one is addition or subtraction of two reactions. So whatever you do, you have to reflect it in your enthalpies also. If you add two reactions, add the enthalpies. Subtract two reactions, subtract the enthalpies. Okay, right? So these three are the operations I can do. Right, now that you know this, Now we can go for different types of enthalpies, which is going to help us find out the overall enthalpy of any complex reaction for that matter, right? Okay, so we'll move on. So the first enthalpy on that sort, right? The first enthalpy on that sort is enthalpy of formation. Guys, there are going to be so many different types of enthalpies I want to see, right? So for each and every enthalpy, you have to know what is the definition, right? And how you're going to write the equation for every enthalpy. Obviously, every enthalpy corresponds to a particular chemical reaction, isn't it? Right? So you have to know two things about any enthalpy, right? First one is what is the definition? Second one is how do you write the equation for a given enthalpy? Two things you have to know. Okay, fine. So enthalpy of formation denoted by the letter delta HF, right? So delta HF, they say. Now, sometimes what they do is they even put a naught on top of this delta H of naught, delta H naught. In general, if they put this naught represents standard conditions, right? This represents God, right? So this represents standard enthalpy. When I put a delta H naught represents standard enthalpy value. Now it is not much so complex. Standard is only talking about the conditions. Okay, so standard conditions, temperature is 25 degrees Celsius room temperature, and pressure is 1 atm atmospheric pressure. So that is what is my standard enthalpies, but you don't have to worry about it. Okay, so when they just put a naught, right, that talks about standard enthalpies. Standard enthalpies means enthalpies measured in these conditions, that is temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, pressure of 1 atm. Okay, fine. So now we'll go for the definition, people. Please take to the definition for enthalpy of formation. Again, I'm telling what is that? Your definition is important, as well as how do you write the equation for this particular enthalpy is also very important. So first we'll know the definition. Please check out the definition. Right. It is the enthalpy change occurring. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a compound, when 1 mole of a compound is formed, when 1 mole of a compound is formed from its constituent elements, from its constituent elements in their standard states, or I can even write as in their free states, from their constituent elements in their free or standard states. Okay, I'll repeat the statement. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a compound is formed from its constituent elements in their standard states or free states. Pretty simple, right? Okay, now what does this tell you? Now, please understand there are certain important phrases which you have to understand. We are talking about 1 mole of any compound that's fixed. Okay, so now this is the reason why we go for this kilojoules per mole. We can understand what we are trying to do here, right? So I know all the energy values are extensive properties. If I have to convert them into intensive properties, I divide the extensive property by the number of moles. So that's why we always talk about kilojoule per mole. So that's why we always specify. We not only for this enthalpy, for all the enthalpies which are due to come, right? For all of them, it is going to be 1 mole, right? Okay. So I said 1 mole of a compound is getting formed. So obviously you have to understand that something is getting formed, right? Something is getting formed here, some compound, right? Now what else do you understand? Now this compound is formed from its constituent elements. See, please understand, you might know so many equations to form that particular compound. Say for example, if you want to form carbon dioxide, now we saw just one equation. I have say CaCO3 plus C gives CaO plus CO2. In that also you form CO2, but that is not what we're talking about here, right? Say for example, if you want to talk about the enthalpy of formation of CO2, right? Now look at the phrase, look at the statement that I have given. The compound should be formed from its constituent elements only. I think if I give you an equation, you'll understand better. Say, for example, if I tell you enthalpy of formation of carbon dioxide gas is some X value, this is given to you. Okay, delta HF of CO2 is some XX kilojoules per mole. Okay, right? Now, how will I write the equation for this is the question. Now, it's pretty simple. Now, I have to make sure that I form 1 mole of CO2 in the product side. Okay, right? Now, I have to make sure that the CO2 is getting formed from its constituent elements. Right? Now, what are the elements present here? Carbon is one element, oxygen is the second element. Okay, now that is not it. It's not only about the constituent elements. They should be in their standard states or in free state. In the sense, how do you see them in nature, or how stable? Like, what is the most stable form of that particular compound you see in nature, or not compound, that element you see in nature? That should come in the reactant side. Okay, so you have two elements, carbon and oxygen, right? Now tell me, what is the stable state of oxygen? Quick. What is the stable state, or what is the free state of oxygen element? O2, right? Obviously, good, right? So so obviously one thing is going to be O2, no doubt, right? So the other thing is going to be carbon. Carbon exists in carbon as carbon only, but I will write the most stable form of carbon is graphite. Okay, so I write C in the bracket Gr. Gr represents graphite. Okay, so for this particular reaction, the enthalpy value is what is given as your X, right? The enthalpy value is what is given as X. That is what is told by this statement, right? So when I write delta HF of CO2 is equal to X, right? So that would be, that means you have to form 1 mole of CO2 from its constituent elements in their standard states, that is carbon graphite and oxygen gas, that is O2 gas. Okay, let me take one more example. So if I tell you, now you are gonna, I think I'm gonna ask someone, because everybody is so quiet, I'm gonna ask someone. So I have delta HF of CH4 is some Y. Okay, now how will you write the equation? Let me maybe ask, what should I ask? Oh, the moment I said that I'm gonna ask, I think someone left. Okay, maybe Srivatsan, can you help me out? Are you there?
Sir, I wasn't able to understand, sir.
Okay, fine. Akshay, or Akshay, can you help? Or maybe Akshay is in the chat. Okay, Akshay, can you tell me how do you write the equation for this? You can unmute yourself and speak. It's better, I guess, because in the chat it will be difficult to write the equation. You want to answer or you don't know, Kana? Akshay? Okay, you don't know. Fine. Aditi, you want to try?
Yes, sir.
Can I try? So I'll help you anyways. I'm right here. I'm gonna help you. Fine. So they have given enthalpy of formation of CH4. Now tell me what should come in the product side.
So C plus 4H.
Sorry?
C plus 4H.
No. I'm telling, we'll come back to the reactant side later. Okay, tell me what will come in the product side.
CH4.
Ah, cool, right? So I have to have making sure that the stoichiometric coefficient is only 1, because we're talking about 1 mole. Okay, fine. Now in the reactant side, what should come? So now, okay, before that, what are the two elements present here in CH4?
Carbon and hydrogen.
Good, right? Carbon and hydrogen. Okay. So what is carbon? Now I need to make sure that the elements come in the standard state. So what is standard state for carbon?
C.
C, that's it. Anything else?
That's it.
Just now we saw. Sorry?
Is it solid?
Yeah, like just before then, I think the previous page, where is it? Oh, I think I missed somewhere. Yeah, this exactly, this one. Now look at this. I said enthalpy formation of CO2, right? And we wrote carbon in the form of what? Graphite, right? Now same thing only has to be done here. I think the next page, yeah. Right. So now what will come here, Aditi?
So carbon in the form of
Carbon in the form of graphite. Okay, right. Now next, hydrogen. How do we write it?
H2.
What is the standard state of hydrogen?
H2 gas.
H2, right? So H2, but I have to balance the equation, right? So I have to put 2H2. That's it. For this reaction, the enthalpy is what is Y. Very, very simple. Thank you, Aditi. Right. Okay, so everybody understood, right? So I write carbon. There are two elements here, carbon and hydrogen, right? So carbon in the form of graphite, hydrogen in the form of H2, but I have 4 hydrogens, but I have to make sure that I have to balance the equation also. Okay, right. Now we'll take one more example. Say I have delta HF of H2O is some Z, I tell you, right? Now, how will you go about it? Now, I think, this time, I think definitely someone can answer. Maybe, no, not this. Harish, can you help me, Kana? Are you there, Harish? Don't go to the chat. Chat, if you go, I think you'll not be able to answer this question. Can you unmute yourself and speak? Harish? Harish, are you there? Kana, it's better that you unmute yourself and speak, Kana, because you'll not be able to tell the equation. How will you write the equation in the chat? It's pretty difficult. Can you help me out? Can you unmute yourself first? Or you're not in a position to unmute yourself. It's so noisy out there near you. Okay, fine, cool, no issues. Maybe I'll ask someone else. Srivatsan, I think this time you understood. I think you'll be able to help.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cool, right. So yeah, tell me how to write about this. How do I write this equation?
Sir, just one doubt, sir. In the products, it should be 1 mole of H2O, no, sir?
Exactly. Always, like it is not correct. What you're telling is correct. I should have, no matter what, I should have only 1 mole of H2O.
Okay, sir. H2 plus half O2 gives H2O.
Absolutely true. Liquid, like that I didn't specify. And now again, see the enthalpy value of gas, I mean the H2O gas and the enthalpy value of H2O liquid will be different. And they will specify whatever this thing is. So you don't have to worry about the face here, right? So it's pretty simple. As you said, it's absolutely true. So H2, right, plus half O2 gives H2O. Now it's pretty, see, generally how do you write this equation? You write it as 2H2 plus O2 giving 2H2O. That's how you write the equation. But we have specified everything for only 1 mole of the product, right? So you have to accordingly make changes in the reaction. So that's it. Very good. So I have directly the equation to be equal to Z. The enthalpy value of this is going to be equal to Z. Very easy, right? So I hope everybody should have understood how do you write the equation for enthalpy of formation, right? Okay, fine. Now we'll go for the next enthalpy. Right. So the next enthalpy you're going to see is enthalpy of combustion. Okay, now it is written by the letter delta HC. Right. Now again, we'll take down the definition. right? So hope you understand from the first enthalpy itself how much important the definition is. If you understand the definition, you will be able to easily write the equation. Okay, so we'll go on. Enthalpy of combustion. We'll take down the definition, delta Hc. Right. It is the enthalpy change occurring. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a substance, when 1 mole of a substance combines with required amount of oxygen, combines with required I said 1 mole of substance combines with required amount of oxygen to form products, combines with required amount of oxygen to form products, right? Okay, I think from the definition you can easily understand what I'm trying to say. I know what is combustion, right? Combustion is basically burning with oxygen. That is what is combustion, right? So we're talking about enthalpy of combustion. So it says that I have 1 mole of the compound or 1 mole of substance reacting with required amount of oxygen. Oxygen can be anything. Oxygen need not be 1 mole, but the compound undergoing combustion should be 1 mole. That's what you need to understand, right? So 1 mole of compound undergoing or reacting with required amount of oxygen to form products. Pretty simple, right? Okay, now how will I write the equation? Say for example, if I have enthalpy of combustion of methane gas is some x, some value, right? Now how will I write the equation for this? Pretty simple. So I have CH4 is what is undergoing combustion, and I have to make sure that there is only 1 mole of CH4. If it's some other number, you divide the entire equation by that number. But in this case, it's going to be easy, right? So CH4 plus reacting with O2 forms CO2 plus H2. This equation we already know. You have to know this whenever combustion happens, what is going to be the product. Whenever a hydrocarbon undergoes combustion, it is going to be carbon dioxide and water, right? So now I have to make sure I balance the equation also. Only oxygen has to be balanced, right? No, oxygen, hydrogen also should be balanced. So this is 2, hydrogen is balanced, oxygen will become 4, right? So this becomes 2. That's it. So for this reaction, the enthalpy change is what is X, as given in the question. That is what is given in the statement. Delta Hc of CH4 is X. This is how you write the equation. Pretty simple. Okay, right. Now with the, actually there is one more enthalpy. We'll see that also, and then yeah, we can see that actually, right? Fine. So there is next enthalpy we'll look into. So this is the second enthalpy which we saw. The third one is what is called as bond enthalpy. There is some problem, right? Okay, fine. Bond enthalpy, I can write it in the short form as BE, right? Now this enthalpy is also called as enthalpy of atomization. Enthalpy of atomization is also called as, okay? So it's called bond enthalpy or enthalpy of atomization. Okay, now we'll take on the definition for bond enthalpy or enthalpy of atomization. Take to the definition, people. Right. It is the enthalpy change occurring. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a compound, when 1 mole of a compound is converted, 1 mole of a compound is converted into its constituent atoms into its constituent atoms in gaseous phase. Constituent atoms in gaseous phase. Okay, again, I repeat the statement. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a compound is converted into its constituent atoms in their gaseous state, not standard states, right? So if they tell you if it is going to be at standard state, this and delta HF are going to be exactly opposite. Is it not? This and bond enthalpy, that is enthalpy of formation, and your bond enthalpy are not exactly opposite. It's not you don't understand, right? So from the statement, what it says is that when I have 1 mole of a compound, right, I have to convert that compound into its atoms. Like it's not like H2 or O2 or something like that. It's just HO, something like that. Okay. Now I think if I take an example, then it makes more sense, right? Okay. So if I tell you that I have right bond enthalpy of say I take CH3OH alcohol, right? Say CH3OH is some X, right? Now how will I write the equation is the question now. Okay, right? So now it's pretty easy. Now I have to make sure that this comes in the reactant side, because in front of the statement you can understand. So it's CH3OH. Now what I have to do to this compound is I have to convert this compound into atoms. So you have what are not present? Carbon present, hydrogen present, oxygen present, right? So I have to convert them completely into atoms, and you don't have to worry about the standard states here. It is not exactly opposite of what is that enthalpy of formation. There you have standard states. For hydrogen it's H2, for oxygen it is O2, for carbon it is going to be graphite, right? But here they are just going to be in the form of gaseous atoms. Very, very simple. Okay, now how will I write the equation here? So now you have carbon atom gas. Now there's gaseous atoms, right? Plus there are how many hydrogen atoms are there? There are 4 hydrogen atoms. So 4H gas plus now I have 1 oxygen atom gas. Now see, nowhere I wrote H2 or O2 or carbon graphite. I just wrote into the atomic phase atoms. So because that is what is enthalpy of atomization or bond enthalpy. Now why is it called as bond enthalpy? Obviously, if I want to convert them this into all of this, right? If I want to convert all of this, like this, the reactant into product, obviously I have to break all the bonds. Is it not? I have to break the CH bond, I have to break the OH bond, right? I have to break the CO bond. All this has to be broken. Only then I can convert them into like this, right? Like this, I'll be able to convert. Okay, so that's why it's called bond enthalpy. And since you're converting into atoms, it's called enthalpy of atomization. Okay, now let me ask one question. Maybe I'll give you another example and you are going to answer it. Say, if I have bond enthalpy of maybe what compound, any compound I can take, right? I'm thinking so much. Say I take okay, right? So I have K2Cr2O7, right? Now I'll say this is some Y. Now tell me, how do I write the equation? Now again, please make sure that I have only 1 mole of this here. Again, I have to make sure that there's 1 mole of K2Cr2 on the reactant side, right? Now tell me, how will I write the equation? Yeah.
Sir, K2Cr2O7 gives 2K in the gaseous form plus 2Cr in the gaseous form plus 7O in the gaseous form.
Absolutely, very simple, right? So K2Cr2O7 is gonna give me 2K gaseous phase plus 2 chromiums again in gaseous phase plus 7 oxygen atoms again in gaseous phase. Pretty simple. right? So hope you understand what do you mean by bond enthalpy or enthalpy of atomization. Whatever you have, just convert them into atoms. Just make sure that the reaction is balanced. Again, balance in the sense you have to make sure there is only one. With respect to this, you do the other things. That's it. Okay, right? Pretty simple. Okay, now I am going to give you one more enthalpy. Right now, this enthalpy and the bond enthalpy are a little connected. Okay, now that is, this is the fourth one, is bond dissociation enthalpy. Right, it's BDE, right? Bond dissociation enthalpy. Right, now we'll take to the definition first, then we'll go into see what exactly is that. Right. It is the enthalpy change occurring. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a specific type of bond, when 1 mole of a specific type of bond in a compound is broken. Okay, I repeat the statement. It is the enthalpy change occurring when 1 mole of a specific type of bond in a compound is broken. Okay, fine. Now see, last time we spoke about bond enthalpy, we spoke about the entire compound as a whole. Is it not? Say bond enthalpy of CH4, bond enthalpy of ammonia. We talk about the overall compound itself, right? But here, in the case of bond dissociation enthalpy, you are going to take a compound, yes, but you are not going to speak about the overall compound, but you are going to speak about a specific type of bond in that compound. For example, say I can tell bond, how will I even talk about it? Say something like this, right? I have, say, bond dissociation energy or enthalpy of CO bond in C2H5OH is some X, something like this. Okay, hope you understand what I'm trying to say. In this compound, I have so many bonds. I have CC bond, I have CH bond, I have OH bond, I have CO bond. All these things are there, right? In that, specifically, I'm talking about CO bond. Bond dissociation energy of CO bond in C2H5OH is X. Now, there is no way that you will be able to write the equation for this, because we're just writing one specific type of bond is broken. That's it. Right. So now what we can do is connect this bond dissociation enthalpy with your bond enthalpy. That will be able to do. Again, I repeat, you will not be able to speak about the entire compound. No, you will be able to speak about one particular bond in a compound. Okay, that is understood. Now you will not be able to write equations for this because it's just one bond, right? But what I can do is connect this bond dissociation energy or enthalpy with my enthalpy of atomization or bond enthalpy. That we'll be able to do. Okay, now how are we going to do what is it? How are we going to do it? We'll see that. Okay, now let me write it like this. Okay, so bond enthalpy of C2H5OH is some Y. Okay, bond enthalpy of C2H5OH is some Y. Okay, now we know how to write the equation for this, right? So I have C2H5. Oh God. So I have a do not. Okay. So C2H5OH. Now it is bond enthalpy, so I have to convert everything into atoms. So I have 2 carbon atoms, 2C. I don't know how to write gas, it's understood. And I have how many hydrogen atoms? 6 hydrogen atoms. 6H plus O. This is what is the equation. Pretty simple. Okay. Now this is not we're talking about. We're trying to connect this and this, right? Bond enthalpy with bond dissociation enthalpy. Okay. Now tell me, if you look at the structure of this molecule, I say I have CH3, CH2, OH, right? So this is the structure. Okay, now tell me, what are all the types of bonds you see and how many such bonds are there? Quick. What are the types of bonds in this molecule, right? And how many such bonds are there? Quick. Hope you understood my question, right? Now, what are the bonds present here
Sir,
in this compound? No. Okay. I don't want the total count and all. Tell me what are the types of bonds and how many such bonds. For example, I can say there is one CC bond. Okay, there is one CC bond. Like that, what are other things?
Oh, sir, one CC bond, one CO
Okay.
bond, one OH bond.
Okay, then?
One CO bond.
Okay.
CH, there's 5 CH bonds, sir.
That's it, right? 5 CH bonds. Okay, so these are all the different types of bonds and the number of bonds present. You can see one CC bond, one OH bond, one CO bond, and obviously there are CH3 and CH2, 5 CH bonds. Okay, now if you want to do this conversion, that is, if you want to convert this into this, that is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms, obviously all of these bonds has to be broken. Is it not? Right? All these individual bonds has to be broken. Is it not? So obviously now we're talking about specific type of bond. So I can include my bond enthalpy here, right? So how will I be able to connect my bond enthalpy with my bond dissociation energy or enthalpy? So I can write bond enthalpy of C2H5OH is equal to, now I have one CC bond. So BDE of CC bond plus BDE of OH bond plus what is the CO bond? BDE of CO bond plus, now I have CH bond, but please understand that there are 5 CH bonds. So you cannot just write bond dissociation energy of CH bonds. It should be 5 into bond dissociation energy of CH bond. This is how you connect your bond enthalpy with bond dissociation energy. It's pretty simple, right? You have the overall compound. You want to convert them into atoms completely, right? So obviously, whatever the type of bond is there, you have to break it, right? So I now speak in terms of individual types of bonds here. CC bond is there, OH bond is there, CO bond is there, CH bond is there. Now for first 3, it is 1, 1, 1. But for CH, I have 5 CH bonds, so I have to multiply it by 5. Okay, so this is how you connect your bond dissociation energy with your bond energy or bond enthalpy, whatever it is. Okay, now like we'll take more examples next class maybe. Okay, now I think we'll stop. I think we can stop with this. Right, so we'll continue again, guys. Please don't forget whatever we have learned. Please take notes properly, and when you come to the next class, you have to go through the notes and come, because I learned already we have less time, right? So every time if I spend some time on again what we saw last class like that, it'll take so much time. Okay, so any doubts, any questions, people? Everybody understood everything?
Sir, so in questions, if you want, if they ask for CO bond, like for example, what you've given here, they'll give the CC bond
values,
OH bond value.
Yes, they'll give the values. CC bond value will be given, OH bond, every value will be given. Don't worry, we'll do a lot of problems. Don't worry, don't worry. Okay, any other questions, people? Oh, there are 6 in the chat. Oh, I didn't see it, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, cool. I think everybody's trying to answer these things, right? Good, nice. Okay, So I hope everybody understood everything. So we can stop with this. Maybe tomorrow again we'll meet at 10 o'clock. Okay. Thank you guys. We'll meet again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.